Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
You are listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
Here we are.
Extremists, it is once again time for another episode of This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. I'm Hobbs. He's Ben, coming to us live from Moscow.
I've been drafted.
Yes,
Apparently,
indeed.
they're so desperate, they're now drafting middle-aged Americans to fight the Ukraine. So I'm getting a stick tomorrow. I'll be second in line. The guy in front of me has a rifle. So
Do you at least have one stripper clip of bullets, though?
yes, I do.
Okay. Well, like, whew, that's good.
So I don't know if Duma Russia is much better than the situation we're in after the last election, but
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a bad night. It definitely wasn't great, but the problem with setting your expectations really high is that if you fail to achieve them, it looks like it's a lot worse than it is.
once again showing that if you half-ass something, you just end up looking terrible. How so many examples of that lately, especially politically half-assing it does not get you anywhere.
No, it certainly does not. Yeah, that election was definitely not stolen. It was 100% above board.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, we are not election deniers or election doubters. So that's a term that's come up a lot that I can't stand. Election denier. I mean, I know what they're doing. They're throwing that denier word on there to make that mental heuristic click in your head where it's like Holocaust denier.
Yeah.
But you're not denying the election. You know it happened. You're doubting the election.
If anything, I think this election shows that there was definitely some bullshit going on in the last one.
For legal reasons, that's a joke.
Yeah. I'm not saying the bullshit they did was, I mean, the thing with politics is it's like a really shitty game where the rules are made up as you go. So the Democrats had figured out a way to game the system a little bit. The Republicans caught on to it. Seems like they did a pretty good job of putting a stop to it. And here's where we are.
Yeah. So one thing that I've been really harping on probably since the 2020 election is not the end goal of all of this doubt that's being put into play is the end goal is not to put Democrats in power. The end goal is just to disenfranchise, demoralize, and destroy the faith that anybody in America might have left in our institutions. And unfortunately, the sanctity and the security of the ballot box was one of the last institutions that we all universally had any kind of faith in. You know, it was the military and the ballot box was about all we had left. And now the military is being run by hand-wringing tranny apologists, and the ballot box is who knows what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I said last week that I would explain why I believe that it's so important to them to destroy faith in the institutions. Rather, I mean, you know, we talk a lot, and I'm kind of on the doomer scale of things where I'm just like, you know, the people that are doing the things that they're doing, they hate this country and they want to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of things that you could do to destroy the country. Why don't they just do that? Why are they actively trying to demoralize and destroy the faith that people still have in our institutions? And the reason behind that is that every savvy politician from our founding fathers all the way into the present day have described this country and its political system as, yes, we're a democratically elected representative republic, but we're also an experiment in self-governance. And like any experiment, violence and vandalism is an easily accounted for confounding variable. You know, to put it in another context, say that you're a scientist and you're in your lab and you're conducting an experiment on, you know, whatever. It's never been done before, but you got a pretty good feeling about it. Okay, so you're running your experiment and it's going for a long time. You've had some hiccups, some ups and downs, but things are looking pretty good. And then all of a sudden some shithead comes into your lab and busts everything up with a baseball bat and runs out. Now, do you as the scientist call it a wash and be like, oh, yep, experiment failed? You know, no, of course not, because it was demolished by an outside entity. It was taken apart by a confounding variable that is easily accounted for. And so you start the experiment over again. And that is why the erosion of faith in our institutions is paramount to dismantling this country before the violence and the, the proletariat revolution or whatever it is that they've got planned in the future. Because if they just come in and wreck the place, like it looks like they're doing a pretty good job of right now in Washington, D.C., if they just come in and wreck the place without eroding our institutions, then there'll be people like you and me and good people like Lyman up in Montana and our boys out in Tennessee that'll just be like, well, fuck you. Get out of our area. We're going to start this over again. We have an excellent foundation. The United States Constitution is a great founding document. I mean, even a British MP, Daniel Hannan. Have you ever read the book, The New Road to Serfdom?
Yes.
Okay, so in the foreword to that book, the foreword was written by Daniel Hannan.
Okay.
And in it, he called the United States Constitution, quote, the most sublime governing document ever conceived of by the mind of man. It's pretty high praise coming from a Brit.
Right.
You know, all things considered, right? So the foundation is there. It's a good, rock solid foundation. It just needs to have the confounding variables accounted for. Which would be the violence and the vandalism coming from both outside and in. So,
sure.
Yeah. So by making our elections look fucky, by doing what was called the Ferguson effect, on the police departments
Mhm.
by making them out to be systemically racist, corrupt at the core, and in need of being demolished from the bottom or from the top down, and then probably federalized or even taken over oversight by an outside entity like the United Nations, which is what they would ultimately like to do.
Mhm.
By dismantling the faith in our military, by corrupting our college universities with cultural Marxism, CRT, or public school systems, our medical institutions, like we just had over the last 2 years with the whole COVID pandemic thing. Nobody has faith in our medical institutions anymore, and now our elections. You're left demoralized. You're left with no faith in your institutions anymore. And at the end of it, people like you and me who are savvy, who follow this sort of thing, we can see this sort of thing happening. But to the average normal person who's, got a 9 to 5 and couldn't care less what's going on in Washington, D.C. or their state and local governments, it's going to come across as, wow, there was something rotten at the core of the United States. It's time to try something new. And more often than not, something new in the last century and a half has always been communism.
Yeah. How does how is that always something new? I don't get it. I mean, even China's not communist anymore. I mean, what's truly left of communist? I mean, North Korea, I wouldn't even consider them communist. There's
I say
some,
Cuba. That's about it.
yeah, and we all see where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, people just want to try it over and over. I mean, I don't know. I get really demoralized on the whole political system, which is nothing surprising coming from a libertarian. Um, the whole system runs on money. If you aren't rich, you're not going to change it. If you're an average Joe with good guiding principles and thinks you're going to get elected to government and make a change, you're just going to waste your time.
Mm-hmm.
The whole system is stacked against you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, in real life, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington does not have a happy ending.
No, you either need to have fuck you money like Elon, or you have enough, because the whole system is being propped up by other people with money. So unless you have fuck you money like Elon, you're not going to change anything, which sucks to say out loud, but that's just the system we're in at this point. And a lot of places, the political parties, it's a one-party state like China. Like, look at California. You've got to work your way up through the party system, which is a Democrat party there. Here in Nebraska, even where we're at, I mean, you gotta swear fealty to the GOP and put in the work with your local party, make enough donations to the GOP to be able to move up. And I've seen it over and over here. I haven't seen it from the Democrat side, but that's just how the system works anymore.
Mm.
It must be so weird living in a state where it's still a split system, like Wisconsin or Ohio or something, where both parties actually have to work.
Right. The thing that's interesting here in Nebraska, I think that you haven't seen it as much in the GOP because you're out there west, or you haven't seen it. I'm sorry, as much as in the Democrats because you're out west. But if I remember correctly, CD2, the Omaha area, went to Biden, didn't it?
Yes.
In 2020.
Yep.
So that's one of the interesting things about Nebraska is we have our electoral college votes are split, which I believe Maine is the only other state that.
Maine also does ranked choice voting, which would be awesome if we could get that going in more states, but that'll never happen.
Yeah, it does. That does open the opportunity for third parties to have a little bit more. Yeah, our winner take all and first across the polls system, it really does favor a two-party system. But I think that nationally, if we could convince other states to drop the winner take all model and split their votes up into congressional districts like we do here in Nebraska, it would be a start in the right direction for more representation. It would be Well, you know that the Democrats are never going to go for it because they want to abolish the Electoral College as it is right
Right.
now with winner take all, because that works in their favor.
Yeah.
They can win a few big states with a few big population centers like California, Illinois, and Bob's your uncle. If we split it up like we do here in Nebraska nationwide, the chances of a Democrat ever being elected again falls to practically zero.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if the Democrats get their way, I mean, they'll campaign in LA and New York and just call it good.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Ben is broadcasting live from Kiev. Yeah. If you missed the beginning, I've been drafted. So, but I don't know how you would even there's no way I don't even know how they got that passed here in Nebraska. There's no way any other states are ever going to go for that. Maine's it must be an interesting place to live, judging off their political system where they have ranked choice voting. They split their electoral votes. I lived there when I was younger, and they're kind of a rugged individualist type up there in that corner of the United States. So that might be the reasoning, but this political system's just so fucked at this point. I'm curious to see how this turns out. If the GOP gets control of the Senate and the House. I don't know what type of last 2 years is he considered a lame duck automatically?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's even though it is still his first term and he could feasibly run again in 2 more years, he's a lame duck. Even if the GOP takes control of one chamber, the House, which that's pretty much a done deal right now, and they maintain the 51-50 split in the Senate, that's still gridlock government.
Yeah.
And I know that given that, there's no veto-proof majority on either side in that situation, he could try to pressure bills to get through the Senate. They won't get through the House. He could try to run things through with executive orders, but the Supreme Court has a 6-3 conservative majority. Well, 5-4. Justice Roberts is kind of a snake. But they've still got the majority on the Supreme Court. As much as it puts a distaste in my mouth to say conservative judges and liberal judges, because the political affiliation of justices should have no bearing on their decisions whatsoever, it is what it is. And that's just how it goes.
The maniacs. I guess Mainers are called maniacs. Yeah, I don't know. It's amazing how little the Democrats have been able to pull off after controlling all 3 branches. It'd be interesting to see what the GOP tries to, historically in the past, when you have one party as the president and the other party controls the 2 other branches, they try and come to some middle ground to work on some stuff. But that's just out the window anymore. It's either hell or the highway for either party at this point. But a government being completely ineffective isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, it isn't. But unfortunately, Biden didn't learn any lessons at all. Not that I think he's cognitively able to learn any type of lesson anymore. But back in the 90s, Bill Clinton tried to push through a lot of progressive stuff, and he ended up getting shellacked in his first midterms.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of his advisors, a guy named Dick Morris, who was pretty savvy, came forward and was like, you need to pivot back towards the center.
Yeah.
And that was Bill Clinton's the era of big government is over speech. Bill Clinton said the era of big government.
Say what you will about Slick Willie. I like the guy. Even though he was a Democrat, I didn't think he did a terrible job. He liked getting his dick sucked in office, obviously. So
oh, well, who can blame him?
Yeah, couldn't blame him. But I didn't have any problems with Clinton, honestly.
Right. He was able to learn his lesson. He took advice from his advisors who were politically savvy, and he ended up getting reelected in a landslide because of it. He was willing to not see the GOP as an enemy. They were political opponents, but they weren't evil.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's where we're at in the country right now, where both sides are looking at the other and they're saying that person, I don't just have disagreements with that person. That person is evil.
Yeah.
And
As we
there
said
are
last week when Biden called them the forces of darkness, that's who the GOP is at this point.
right, right. And he gave a speech yesterday, and somebody in the crowd was like, how is this going to affect your policy decisions and recommendations moving forward? And he just was like, no change. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. We haven't been here long enough for people to see what we're doing. The more people see, the more they're going to like. And I'm just like, no. I'm not too proud to tap out on this one, man. I liked $2 a gallon gas. I liked being able to fill up my grocery cart and not spend all of my paycheck in one go.
Right.
You know, not living paycheck to paycheck was pretty fucking cool to me, man.
Somebody over just draw. If new leaders get in the GOP, maybe they'll find their spines and stand up. Yeah, they got to drop Mitch McConnell. You know, both parties have that problem that their leadership is just old boomers.
Right.
Got to get rid of these boomers.
Well, the biggest problem with the GOP is that the Democrats campaign on giving their constituents something, and they reward their voters when they get into power. You got Obamacare, you got the student loan forgiveness, you got all these handouts because they say we will give you X if you do Y. The GOP's biggest campaign block is we will stop the Democrats. And if the GOP goes and turns around Democrat policies, reversing gun control, taking back excessive taxes, you get a little tax break every now and again.
That still pisses me off. They never did anything for gun control when they had all three. It's like, you fucking idiots.
Right, but the deal is that if they do any of that stuff, they lose their wedge issue to campaign on, and that's the biggest problem with the GOP. And to be fair, that's the biggest problems with the libertarians too, is because you can't offer a negative as an incentive. It's just like, we will not do X is not much of a campaign promise, whereas we will give you Y. That's something you could see. It's something tangible, something you
right.
can
And that's a problem I ran into with being on city council. I'm always against stuff because I don't like excessive spending. So, Ben hates golf courses. Ben hates parks. Ben hates this, that. So then when it came time and I ran for mayor, it came time for me to run for mayor. I had all these people that thought I hated their pet thing that they liked. No, I just hate all the spending. So, but that's how people perceive it.
Right.
If you're not giving them stuff, if I had ran on, I liked all those things. Sure. If I'd been for spending everybody's money on all these fucking pet projects, would have had a lot more votes.
It's easy to spend other people's money.
Yeah, that's basically what government is. Just a bunch of people like spending other people's money.
Yeah.
If you're not okay with that, there's no position for you in elected government.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when they paint you as, Ben hates golf courses, Ben hates public parks, Ben hates this, Ben hates
the library, Ben hates the library. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that. When they paint you as hating all of these, tangible public goods, in today's modern society, hate is a cardinal sin. Ambiguous hate is the worst thing that you can be accused of in current year.
Well, that's the thing. People are fine if you like their pet thing that gets them excited. As long as, and they don't care about, say you like the library, but you hate parks. That doesn't rile them up nearly as much. If you like everything, you're fine. People don't care if you like all the pet projects, even if it's a pet project they don't agree with. And I'm sure this goes all the way up to state and federal level, because it seems like local politics is just a mirror of federal, just at a smaller scale.
Yeah. Yeah, so as far as the new GOP leaders finding their spine and standing up, no, because they'll lose their wedge issue. And
Yep.
if they can't campaign on abortion or gun control or any of the other things that they do, then what have they got to offer? Vote for me, and I'll collect 6 figures a year to sit in Capitol Hill to twiddle my thumb and make sure that the Democrats don't steal your money. Sounds great to you and me. To the normal person, they're probably just like, well, what do I get out of this?
Yeah.
I don't want 6 degrees of separation between me and the incentive to what I vote for. I want what I want now, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Every day I'm ending up more like that Sheik in that video. That's like, he talks about democracy as a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And then he pauses, but the people are retarded. I mean, it seems like that's where we're going more and more. Just looking at all these elections. I mean, the Herschel Walker election, that was interesting.
Yeah, let's pivot to some of the specific elections here. You want to start with the Herschel Walker thing?
Yeah, I mean, libertarians always steal GOP votes unless it's causing a Democrat not to win. Then they steal all the Democrat votes.
Yep. And I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it or not, but I called into InfoWars yesterday about that very topic.
Yeah.
So Harrison was complaining that it was 49-49 and 2 was the outcome, and he's like those libertarians would have just voted for the GOP instead of voting libertarian, everything would have been okay. And I could see, it's very simplistic and reductive, but I called in to explain to the guy. I said, listen, that assumes that the GOP would get those votes, whereas in reality, there's people vote libertarian for a lot of different reasons, and I'm not going to just go into it because I'm pretty sure that everybody in the chat it pretty much falls in the same area that we are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be watching.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions about that, go ahead and drop it in the chat, and I'd be more than happy to expound upon the right lib, left lib divide. But yeah, I think that a lot of these libertarians that voted in Georgia, the 2% that Chase Oliver, Chase Oliver is his name.
Yeah, I'm sure a gay, what was he, a gay lawyer? I'm sure that's going to be pulling a ton of GOP votes in Georgia.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I told Harrison too. I'm like, you look at some of this guy's campaign rallies that he did. He's got pride flags, he's got drag queens, he's got the full globo homo regalia going on, and if he's pulling votes from anybody, he's pulling votes from the Democrats. So if anything, the GOP should be congratulating him as being
right.
As a spoiler, rather, without that libertarian running in that election, chances are probably pretty good that Raphael Warnock would have won rather than going to the runoff election. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I see a lot of the libertarians that did vote for Chase Oliver, if they're Libertarian Party people, are probably just going to stay home in the runoff, and we'll be right back to square one with like a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happens after that. They just keep holding runoff elections.
I don't understand how that works down there. They have to get 51 to win. Is that what the deal is? Or they have?
I think so. Yeah.
That's funny. Just have runoff after runoff down there. And I don't know. Have you heard any commentary on who that favors by having a runoff? Does it favor GOP or Democrat more?
As far as this is split, taking aside any electioneering shenanigans, it's anybody's game at this point. Who has the lazier
that's what I was going to say.
Demographics?
Who's a lazier party in Georgia, I wonder?
Democrats.
I would guess that, but maybe not. And
Yeah,
that's such a weird situation. If it comes down to to that race deciding who controls the Senate, it's going to be a shit show for when is it? It's going to be in December or something.
yeah, December 9th, I think, is when the runoff is.
Yeah, it's going to be a shit show for a month if the control is up in the air until then. And I don't understand, another race in Arizona. Why is it every election fucking Arizona can't get their shit together?
It's because they changed up how elections are done in Arizona a few years ago.
Like since the last cycle, they've changed it because it seems like they're having the exact same issue as they did 2 years ago.
It was a few years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago, as they changed how they collect ballots and how they count them. It's something that they shut down like 2/3 of polling places. They're doing these centralized giant hubs. and rather than tabulate votes and keep like a running total, they're doing this like massive vote dump where they're just like, okay, we got 100,000 votes counted. Here are the results of that 100,000. It's just like jump and jump and jump and jump and jump. And it's all very suspicious looking and stupid. And it keeps us all on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, because what do we have left? We have Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia, right? There's three races up still.
Lauren Boebert's still counting in Colorado.
I thought they got enough in that she was going to win, but I could be wrong.
At the end of the day today, I saw she was up 50.9 to 49.1.
They haven't counted all the military votes, so I'm guessing, all the overseas military votes that come in. So I'm guessing that'll give her a jump if it's that close.
Possibly.
But yeah, out of Colorado, I saw they legalized mushrooms.
Rocky Mountain High.
I guess weed wasn't enough for them, so they're moving on to psychedelics.
What's a slippery slope? They know all about slopes in Colorado.
Yeah, they know all about the slopes. Up here, Luke White, personally, I'm tired of hearing the political ads about how Warnock hates law-abiding Americans and Walker's around siring illegitimate children. Man, that guy is about up to as many kids as Nick Cannon at this point, isn't he?
It's
I think Walker has 4 or 5 that have coming out of the woodwork now.
Well, it's better to sire them than abort them, which is what Raphael Warnock wants.
Yeah, and the thing that hits Walker is, he strongly against abortion, talks about how absent fathers were so terrible, and here he is doing this. Do you think Fetterman's stance on drug and crime reform got him the win? I think Oz being a creepy weirdo got Fetterman the win, probably. What do you think on that one?
I think it's a combination of Pennsylvania Republicans not fully trusting a slimy TV doctor who got his start with Oprah Winfrey, combined with
you see Trump was pissed because he endorsed him because his wife told him he should. Did you see that story?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he threw Melania under the bus. He said she talked him into endorsing Oz over what was that guy's name? We talked about him. I did some research on him too. He seemed like he would have been a solid candidate. The guy that Oz beat in the primary. Remember McDaniels?
I didn't read that. I was maybe I'm thinking of a different race, but there was a black woman that I can't remember the name of that went on Timcast the other day that I thought was Oz's primary challenger. And she was like on it.
I can't remember. Maybe I'm getting confused, but I remember, Trump was pissed at Melania because she talked him into endorsing Oz, and he even talked shit about Oz's opponent in the primary. And he apologized about as much as Trump would apologize for it, but he came out and said it was a mistake, but endorsing Oz.
Yeah. Yeah, that combined with the impenetrable Democrat Party machine and the apparent hive mind that Democrats have, maybe they can lend some of that to Uncle Festerman. But
I think Trump backing Oz got Fetterman the W. Yeah. What was it decided about Trump endorsements? Were those good or bad? What did Trump endorse candidates do?
not as good as expected, and not as good as non-explicitly Trump endorsed candidates.
I saw AI PAC candidates had 90% win rate.
Golly,
Don't tell Kanye.
we're not going down that rabbit hole, or we're going to be canceled from the face of the earth.
Yeah, just coincidence, I'm sure.
Totally.
Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Fetterman and Biden are going to have a race on who could become a vegetable the fastest. Yeah, I think we got broccoli and cauliflower there already at this point.
Yeah, that's about right. If I hear blue no matter who one more time, I might become a super villain.
Yeah, Fetterman, it'll be interesting to see how that guy pans out in there. I'm sure he's just going to have a team running the show like Biden does. What a weird race that was. I don't even know what to think about it.
Yeah, yeah, slimy TV doc who got his start on Oprah Winfrey versus basically Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, trust fund kid.
Hooked up to machines. Yeah, he's hooked up to a machine that tells him what to say. Who knows who's on the other end of that machine? And yeah, like Luke said, it's the vote blue no matter who people. They gave him the W. They would rather put a guy who's got one foot in the grave, whose brain literally does not work anymore.
You know what? I don't blame him. I probably couldn't have voted for Oz either if I was in that state. That guy is just so sleazy. I mean, he just comes off as creepy, and friends with Oprah.
And then Oprah comes out and endorsed Fetterman the other day.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, so if she's throwing Oz under the bus for Fetterman, and then isn't this what I predicted last week? Oz was going to lose. Mastriano was also going to lose in Pennsylvania.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Walker and Warnock was too close for me to call. And I said that Kari Lake was going to win, but it was going to be a lot closer than most people think. And that's
one of the races still being counted.
I'm pretty much batting 1,000.
Do you think she's going to pull it off?
Barely. Because I think that if she loses, it's too obvious. It's too obvious. Her opponent, Katie Hobbs, no relation, was fleeing from journalists, was refusing to go to a debate, her entire campaign was nothing but ad hominems.
That seems to be the new tactic, is to just not go to debates anymore. That's what Walker did. That's what, here in Nebraska, our governor candidate that won, he didn't do a single debate in the primary, didn't do any in the general. I guess they've realized, there's no reason to do them because your low info voter isn't going to give a shit. And if you screw up, your voter that pays attention is going to vote for you. So you just say, fuck it and skip it.
Right. Yeah. 90% of people already have their minds made up. They're in, team blue or team red.
And it seems like people don't care if you don't do them. But if you have a shitty showing at one, it sure bites you in the ass.
Didn't bite Fetterman.
Well, Oz's wasn't much better at that. If you watch some of it, I mean, he just came off as creepy. Another in the Hobbs was right jar. Yeah. At this point, that jar's about full. Cash it in for some Shroot bucks. So yeah, that was all the races. I mean, the news cycle. What else is going on in Clown World this week for the news cycle? I'm here in Russia. They're in retreat, I guess.
Yeah, but I also heard that Zelensky floated the idea of actually sitting down at the table with Putin and talking, which to me tells me that he's afraid of the GOP controlling the purse strings of the United States, and he's not going to get any more Fed bucks.
The Biden administration also, I saw, was encouraging him to talk at this point. So I don't know if they're getting tired of just dishing money out or what.
Well, all things considered, especially when we have these close races that might go into runoff territory that might end up having control of the legislative branch on the line, candidates might pivot and make the Ukraine war a legitimate campaign issue. Mm-hmm. And they'd have every right to, because they're spending your money. My money.
Yeah, my favorite thing was I saw those people bitching that Elon wasn't spending the $44 billion to cure world hunger, but they don't mind sending, what are we up to, $20 billion now to Ukraine?
I'm closer to 120.
120? Shit.
Yeah.
Lost a one there. Yeah. What could that have done for world hunger?
Oh, Luke over here with a hot take. I kept up with the races pretty closely. One could call me a racist.
Oof. Russia's going to nuke the area they're retreating from. I mean, why not?
Or Ukraine's going to nuke the area that Russia's retreating from and blame it on Russia.
I mean, what happened to Ukraine taking back the Crimea? Is that still on the table at this point if it keeps dragging on?
I don't know, man. It's Russia's taken a page from the Ukrainian guerrilla playbook recently, and rather than throwing their, tanks and APCs and shit, they're buying cheap knockoff Iranian drones.
I saw.
And blowing up all of the multi-million-dollar equipment that we in Europe are sending over there. So this is going to devolve to like if ISIS fought the Taliban. It's gonna be like, or you remember that episode of Deadliest Warrior where it was the IRA versus the Taliban?
I do. That was a classic.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah. So imagine that, but everywhere.
And those poor fuckers, they're in trench warfare at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all the videos you see coming out of it, they're in trenches, a couple miles from each other, taking pots. It's like World War I rehash at this point.
Right, because we're in the same situation as they found themselves in World War I, was where the technology had outstripped the ability to advance tactics. Right. You had like literal cavalry charges on horses going up against machine gun nests in the early days. And then everybody just finally had to hunker down in a hole in the ground and be like, well, shit, how do we figure this out?
And we talk about all the money we're sending over there, but I tell you, the military industrial complex would send 3 times that much probably for the amount of information they're gathering from this war and figuring out what their next war toy is going to be coming up. Because it seems like whenever you get a situation like Ukraine versus Russia, where, it's kind of a new warfare that nobody's really done yet. It goes slow, but the next one, somebody's figure out how to use it. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at from World War I to World War II, the Nazis figured out you got to blitzkrieg this shit. There was no trench warfare in World War II, and you had the air superiority. So this next one is just going to be, it's probably going to be a fucking robot battle to start the first wave of the war. Mm-hmm. for you're going to have a drone superiority fight to kick the thing off.
Right. We've got individuals with improvised like hand grenades on quadcopter drones, and then they're going to refine that, industrialize that, and the opening salvo of the next big war is going to be swarms of unitized standard
it's
issue.
Fucking scary.
Yeah.
I mean, these poor bastards in Russia, they're probably going through the same thing that those guys in World War I did with the artillery falling out all around them. I mean, you have no idea where this drone's going to drop shit on you from. It's going to be
some of the. I was going to say some of the things that I've seen developed have just been unreal, like hummingbird-sized drones with a tiny little shaped charge in them that'll just like fly at your head at 90 miles an hour and detonate. There's nothing you can do to stop it.
Yeah. No matter how many eggheads you put in a room figuring out the best weapon system, nothing figures out the best one like actual warfare. So they're gonna take what they've learned from this, and the eggheads are gonna refine it, and it's just gonna be scary shit. The next one, I bet. I'm surprised drones didn't come into as much play in Afghanistan and Iraq. I don't know. What's your theory on why that wasn't as big a deal?
It's fairly new technology that's been cheapened to the point. Like if the technology was at the level that it is now in 2001, you would have seen a lot more prevalence of it. But right now, it's just the economy of scale is making the sorts of things that we're seeing in Ukraine, viable for that kind of warfare. Yeah, that's about it.
I mean, you got to think too that our government is probably figuring out a drone counter. It's probably going to be like opening waves of drones and an EMP pulse.
That's about what it'd have to be. Because your only other option is going to be like a 360-degree Claymore mine loaded with birdshot. That's about all you can do to counter these things.
Yeah. I mean, it's scary. We'll see how it turns out in Russia and Ukraine, but at this point, it seems like they've given up almost everything they've taken. You read about that base they took over, all the stuff left behind. They were looking through it. You almost felt really sorry for those poor bastards that got dragged into that. I think it was a convergence of 3D printing and drone tech affordability. Yeah, I mean, they're manufacturing shit on the fly over there. I saw a video of a drone dropping grenades on Russian soldiers, and it was obvious that parts on it were 3D printed.
Yeah, there's some. You take the dumbest, most autistic Joe, you put him in the trench, and he will come up with the most ingenious thing that the MIT tech heads could never even have fathomed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you've seen the pictures or not, but I saw it was like a 1910 water-cooled Maxim machine gun in the back of a little trailer with a hollow sun machine gun optic mounted on top. It's like, just let me die.
How do I get a hold of one of those? Yeah, I saw that they were bringing out. It's crazy that Russia would still have those in a warehouse somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw it had the Z on the trailer, so it must have been Russians, unless the Ukrainians were using a captured one. But yeah, there's crazy old shit that both sides are using. There's a Russian reservist carrying around a 9130 PU sniper rifle, a Mosin Nagant sniper rifle. It's like,
yeah,
where do you even get that? I thought all of those were over here in surplus stores.
Right? I can't imagine there's a warehouse somewhere here in America where we have World War I surplus sitting around, but you wouldn't need it here. We've got so many guns.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what pans out on Russia. They were in retreat. You're right. The Democrats were encouraging Zelensky to come to the table. Who knows how it'll turn out? Maybe I don't know.
Wacky.
They'll buy Twitter Blue and settle their differences. Which to pivot completely, I didn't realize it on Twitter, the blue check mark. It was like a whole nother layer on Twitter. Did you understand how that worked?
Where you could go into your mentions and filter it by blue check and not blue check? Yeah.
Yeah. So these people were using a whole different Twitter than the rest of us were. And it's kind of creepy when you think about it, that all the elites and people with blue check marks were using Twitter in a completely different way, while us peons were down here in the other Twitter.
Mm-hmm. And that's why it was imperative to keep it ideologically pure, where you couldn't allow anybody to be verified that wasn't in the club.
Yeah, because then
And
they could get pushed out to the mentions if they wanted to call somebody on their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And Elon put an end to it, and people lost their minds.
Yep. Now for a cool, crisp $8, you too can be in AOC's mention tab.
Yeah, it's
The
great.
people who are perpetually online, like AOC, they're the ones that are the most affected by this.
Go ahead and monetize it, Elon. I mean, now that we know how it was working, create like 10 levels of Twitter. You want to be in the Twitter elite club? It's like $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Sure, if you're going to be rich and fuck around on Twitter, it's been revealed what Twitter's about. Just create a tiered level. Fine. Now we know what it's about.
Yeah. I heard somebody put it this way. They're like, Elon inherited a crime scene, and now we're just seeing how deep it goes.
Yeah. Somebody here. A bigger question is where they get any of their weapons from. If only 30% of USA weapons are making it through, where's the rest of the 70% coming from?
Well, let me tell you about something called Iran Contra. To tell you where the 70% that you're not seeing make it to the front line go.
Good old Ollie North.
Ollie North. Ollie North.
Yeah,
No, they're going to the black market. They're going to God knows where, whatever war zone. Probably going to Yemen, North Africa, Middle East. I'm waiting for one of those stingers to make its way back to South America, come up through the Mexican border, and take out something big and important.
blow up the wall. They're going to start using HIMARS on the wall.
I was thinking more like Air Force One or something similar to that. A terrorist brings. I mean, it's a serious threat. Terrorist brings a Stinger missile up across the southern border, which is hanging wide open, and does something like take out the presidential limousine or take out a governor's helicopter while it's on the pad, or any other number of high value targets. Can you imagine the shitstorm that would ensue if something like that happened?
Well, shortly after 9/11, remember they said it was all conspiracy theory. There was stingers shot at airplanes taking off in the Northeast. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
People had like a video of it, and they're like, "Oh no, that's not a stinger," and it just kind of went away. I'm sure it could happen again because that's how those freaking weapons ended up in the United States, because we gave them all to the well, they weren't the Taliban. What were they called before they were the Taliban?
Mujahideen.
Yeah, we gave them all to the Mujahideen, and then some of them ended up in the States, and they were shooting stingers at. There was a couple reports of stingers being shot at commercial aircraft taking off. For some reason, they couldn't hit them, but it just ended up people saying it was wacky conspiracy theorists. So I'm sure something will filter down. I mean, was it today's allies, tomorrow's enemy?
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, Ukraine's going to turn on us. I'm sure everybody we've done the same thing for has turned on us.
Yeah, about the only ally that we've left hanging out to dry that hasn't come back to bite us in the ass has been Kurdistan, and we did those guys dirty.
Man, if anybody deserves to come blow up something on American soil, it's the Kurds.
The Kurds and the Chinese Republicans in Taiwan. Yeah. Those two, we did both of those guys dirty.
Yeah, the Kurds, I'd be like, if they blew something, I'd be like, well, I mean, we asked for it.
Yeah,
fair enough, fair play. That we did it to them twice is the thing. Maybe even more. We just don't even know about it.
I've been through Kurdistan. If anybody deserved to take over Iraq, it was the Kurds. They had their shit locked down. Kurdistan was nice. We walked around without our body armor. It was that nice.
And we fucked them twice.
Yep.
Shame on us for screwing them over twice, but shame on them for not realizing America's an asshole. We've got don't worry, guys. The ATF will save us. Yeah, I'm sure.
Automatic transmission fluid oftentimes does come in the clutch.
Yeah, old Kurdistan, Chinese Republic, Chinese Republicans. Yeah, that's another one where, good grief, I don't even know why Taiwan still does anything for us. If you know that story.
Thanks, FDR, you faggot.
Yeah. There it is. What else popped up last week?
Evelyn de Rothschild died.
What?
Evelyn de Rothschild, the head of the Rothschild banking clan, on the morning of election night, or on election day morning, died at 91.
So what are they having a secret meeting to pick the next Rothschild leader? There's going to be smoke coming out of a chimney somewhere, and Rothschild / APAC leader.
No, do not go down that rabbit hole. Do not go down that rabbit hole.
Whoops. Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that. I suppose they don't want people thinking about the Rothschilds.
No, they're you know how it's like if Fox News or any of the right-wing pundits that kind of exclusively live on YouTube talk about George Soros, then they mysteriously end up getting their viewership cut.
Right.
Talking about the Rothschilds is that on methamphetamine. Yeah, it's almost like the Rothschilds don't exist. They're like a boogeyman.
I mean,
they very much exist.
They go way. I mean, where the Rothschilds, you can trace them back to what, the Merovingians in 1400s or something. Have you gotten on that rabbit hole looking into that?
Probably, at least, but where they really came into prominence was the Battle of Waterloo, when they ended up crashing the Bank of England by feeding them false information, tanking the English stock market during the Napoleonic Wars. That was when they came into like real prominence. But the name Rothschild is the German name for Red Shield. It was a whole bunch of different banking families that came together under one banner and started intermarrying and solidifying as one big clan, and they pooled all of their money and made a big central banking empire. And then they did what they did, bankrupted England, bought up the British Stock Exchange for pennies on the dollar, made their fortune, and then just kept on expanding. An octopus with its tentacles into everything.
They're at least 68% lizard, somebody says over here. And you know, we bitch about old money here in the States. United States old money has nothing on European old money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, say what you will about the United States, but you can still climb your way to the top. I don't think anybody below middle class in Europe has climbed to the top in hundreds of years, probably.
At least not ethically.
Yeah, not ethically. Not ethically, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, we're getting there. We're getting to that point here in the States. You know, especially with a bunch of state here in our great state of Nebraska, they passed a minimum wage law. I can't believe that shit. $15 an hour.
Ridiculous. Oh, one more thing before we sign off.
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow's Veterans Day.
Yes.
So if anybody out there listening right now is a veteran or knows a veteran or any of that stuff, happy Veterans Day to you. I hope you stuff your face with many free meals.
Marine Corps birthday today, too.
Yep.
Hoorah, all you Korean eaters that are out there. One of the few branches that doesn't have problem making their recruitment quotas.
It's the dress uniform.
They actually beat their recruitment quotas. Army, not so much.
Nope.
Not getting any better either, from what I hear from people getting out recently.
Nope.
Total shit show. Don't even know what we're going to do about it.
Do you have tomorrow off, Ben?
I do not, but I did get a gift card from my place of work for Veterans Day, so I'm not complaining.
I got tomorrow off. So I'm
Well,
gonna
happy
go play.
Veterans Day.
I'm gonna go play video games after this.
Get your DD214 golden ticket for all your free meals and go around. Somebody said that's called Californication. Yeah, that's what that minimum wage is. Next will be drive-through abortion clinics. Maybe not here in Nebraska. I don't know. They're got a bunch of fucked up voters here. They vote for weird leftist things and then they don't. Like we can't
Omaha,
get it.
maybe.
We can't get a carry. We can't get a constitutional carry, but get our fucking minimum wage raised up. Even though it's a solidly GOP state. Don't know what the hell's going on. But like Hob said, happy Veterans Day. Thanks for watching us this week. We'll be back next week. We'll see what shakes out in Clown World. Stay honky.